Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. After a lot of political spiel and talk, we're taking a break and we're doing some shop talk. And I have with me, of course, the best in the business who are at the top end of the pyramid catering to affluent India. And as the topic goes, we're talking about growth at the top of the pyramid. Now, reports suggest, as well as, of course, company reports suggest, that companies that cater to the top end of the pyramid are growing much faster than companies that are catering to mass market or broader markets in India. What's the reason? Where is affluent India today? What is their patterns? What are their aspirations? And how does that convert to business sense? Well, who better than both of you to give me that answer? I'm going to start with, a broad-based question to both of you and then get into the semantics of it. First things first is, Santosh and Jyoti, you've seen the definition of luxury evolving in the Indian market. Are there any noticeable shifts in the way affluence is perceived by the Indian consumer today when compared to, let's say, a decade ago? Go for it.
Okay, thanks Sonali for having me here. So if you see the classical definition, and Coco Chanel said luxury starts where necessity ends. And that's also the economic definition is, of course, if the demand for luxury goods should be much more than the economic growth because people spend on irrational consumption. And that's something that we saw in the last 3 years, even in India, that there was a bit more, the luxury segment grew a bit more than the total automotive market. It continues to do so. That also shows the aspirations of 1 billion people in India. They want to upgrade to things which is not a necessity because there are a lot of good cars which can take you from point A to point B, but do you want to now have an irrational purchase? What has changed in India, what we see is a high level of individualization, personalization. In our world, we have something called the manufacturer. People are ready to wait. They want to customize, personalize, and pay a significant premium for that personalization. So that's something which we have not seen, say, even 3 to 4 years back. And that also means the demands are much more, I would say, not only on the cars, but also on all the equipment features. So I think it's much more demanding in terms of what they expect from the brands.
And this phenomenon is as recent as 3 or 4 years.
Exactly.
I see. Jyoti?
Yeah, first of all, once again, thank you for having me here. So the way I think luxury is being consumed in India is evolving in a very different way. India, as we know, we all know, is a young country. We have youngsters who are driving the overall economy and so the luxury industry. If you go, let's say 10 years back, probably it was only the elite who were looking and aspiring to buy a luxury car. Today, that has changed in a big way. There are people who are maybe a little lower, maybe affluents, and also social climbers. The aspiration is going down. So their aspirations are actually rising, but going down in terms of their income level. So there are more and more people who are coming forward and wanting to buy luxury. So I think that is one big shift which has happened over a recent past. Another thing I would say is that I think India, if you really go way back, 20, 30, 40 years back, was more about roti, kapda, makan. I think that was like our economy. Today, I think generation thinks like zindagi na milegi dobara. So they are thinking, this is my life. Why do I wait to buy a luxury car and wait when I turn 40, 50? Why don't I consume now? And I think this is a big change. So as more and more such people climb socially, they are coming forward and willing to buy and consume luxury. And luxury cars are no exceptions. And what we are also seeing is it is not just about the real luxury, so we call it today, because our segment is still very small. But if you look at the larger car market, what you observe is that the average or median price of cars which were bought 10 years back versus today has gone up. So we are calling it already premiumization. So as that section grows, I think they will slowly and steadily start moving upwards. And I think that's a big driver of growth in our segment.
Right. Just taking a cue from him, he's talking about the key growth drivers. Many reports suggest that this essential shift is also happening with, the younger generation's value changes. So, for instance, let's say my parents or your parents or even us to a certain extent believed in the whole saving and owning phenomenon, as opposed to the young generations who are, earning decent amount of money between 25 and 45 years, do not believe in owning, believe in spending, live for today, live for the moment, and not saving for that rainy day is possibly a big value change we see in terms of how they conduct their lives. Would you say that's been a big driver? Do you see people in their, in their 30s who aspire to buy a Mercedes Benz?
No, for sure. I think one big change which has happened is Indians are traveling a lot, not only within India but also abroad. So they are studying abroad, kids are going out, they are already having a lifestyle, and when they come back, they want the same bags, they want the same watches, they want the same cars to be driven when they are back. So I think that's definitely driving. But when I look at inward to India, there is a one big change more so in the urban centers. When we are making our career, the roti kapda makan was very important. You wanted to have a good house, also food on the plate, save for your social security to a bit. Today's generation is covered largely by parents. I know a lot of people who have bought house not only for themselves but even for their kids and their kids. So, so they don't have that spending EMI for house now. And to a large extent, they are secure now. They know that, I don't have to save this and they can spend. So I think the economic development, the per capita GDP, what has grown, and also a lot of middle class in India have saved also for their kids to some extent, gives them a larger flexibility to consume luxury products, be it right from the last, the iPhone to luxury cars, watches, bags, and so on and so forth. So I think that's also something which drives growth.
But is there something that differentiates, let's say, the Indian luxury consumer versus the global consumer? Are there any key differentiation you see?
Our experience is Indian customer doesn't like decontenting. They don't like cars which are cheap, which are decontented, which doesn't have equipment. Whereas if you see a configuration worldwide also, there are cars which are basic, then you can configure the car to much more expensive cars and variants. But in India, when we are looking at the market, you can get cheaper cars, you will find some takers for the brand, but in the long run, it doesn't work. Indians are much more demanding compared to the Western counterparts, I would say. And that's what, when Jyoti was mentioning about the premiumization, let me say a statistics for us. 3 years back, our average selling price used to be around 60 lakhs. Today, the average selling price for us is 90 lakhs. That shows significant change in the mix. So a lot of people come up to me and say, hey, you are still 1.2% of the market. The answer is yes. But if you look at the average selling price growth and multiply it by the kind of top line and also the bottom line that we are able to do, that shows India is coming of age. The average selling price is now as good or better than any part of the world.
Sure. Jyoti, Volvo has positioned itself as a sustainable luxury brand. Now, sustainability, of course, is a buzzword, but how is that resonating with the Indian affluent consumer? What does sustainability actually mean for them? Does it mean anything at all?
So I think let's first understand what really sustainability means. When we look at it from a global perspective, it is basically, Volvo has always been known for safety, right? And we see sustainability an extension of that safety because it's now about safety of the planet, right? And what do we now which will ensure that we leave a better world for our kids tomorrow? So I think at one level, if we really look around, I think today's luxury consumers, if they're coming from those elite class, I think they do care. But to a certain level. So if you really go and tell a luxury consumer that instead of leather seats, we will give you seats which are made of recycled material, are they ready to pay a premium for that? I don't know the answer yet. But I think the younger customers, I was talking about the ones who are now climbing, they actually care a lot. So as we were talking a bit earlier that our kids, the next generation who are now coming forward and maybe participating in economic development, they care a lot. They have started to understand because when we were growing up, we heard climate change and we said, okay, it's maybe far, far away. But they can see it now. When we look at our cities, I think a few weeks back, what was it Delhi like, right? And they see that. and they know and they are much more caring. So I believe that sustainability is going to be very, very critical for the country and for the luxury also. Because see, the luxury customers typically are also influencers in our society. People look forward to them. So today, I would say some of these customers, even if they don't care, they want to be seen that they care, right? So today, when we are selling an electric vehicle car with a green plate, that has its social value, right? People are now wanting to be seen in a car with a green plate because it makes a statement that they care. Today, it is driven more from a different need, but I think as the younger customers participate, it will make a big difference. But having said that, sustainability also does not only mean making and selling electric cars. I think it is a much larger context. Way you design your cars, the way you look at leaving a carbon footprint from a 360-degree perspective, the way you design your car, the way you sell your car, I think that we have to look at the overall ecosystem. And for Indian perspective, I think it is very important. And that is why we believe that electrification is at the center of this whole sustainability. And we need to ensure that we do the right things for Indian consumers. And I think it is resonating with our customers. So today we are already selling, although we are very small, but almost like 1 in every 4 cars we sell is already electric, which I think tells that customers are willing to come forward and take those cars. Yeah.
Interesting. Santosh, I'm curious to know, are there any big regional disparities when it comes to luxury consumption? For instance, is there a difference between, let's say, a tier 2, tier 3 consumer versus a metro consumer? Or are we seeing more homogeneous kind of behavior?
Not really. Let me give a few statistics. So luxury car market this year would be around 50,000 cars. In a 4 million car market, that makes it to be around 1.2%. So that's the penetration of luxury to the total car market. Now let's split tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So tier 1 markets, if you see, which is the Bombay, Delhi, based on population density, they are already at 2.5%. In terms of penetration to luxury. If you go to tier 2, they are at 1 to 1.2, and tier 3 markets in India are at 0.4. So now the runway is huge, because if you look at developed markets, they are at 11-12% in terms of penetration. So I think as market matures, the tier 1 will go further up, tier 2 and tier 3 and so on and so forth. Even in tier 1, you know, when I look at South Mumbai, though we are in Delhi, I don't have the Delhi pin code statistics, but I was just looking at now South Mumbai. They are at 6.5% is already South Mumbai when it comes to luxury penetration. It's as good as any Western world that we see. So I think there are disparities for sure. It's too late to look at it. There is an opportunity at one end of the spectrum that you can really go in. On the other side, I think the best is yet to come.
You have a point of view on that?
Yeah, I think I agree. Today, if you really see from I think wealth distribution in India, and you actually go even beyond states and go into districts, maybe it is 15 to 20 districts within India who are like where all the wealth really sits. But what we have seen is the growth is coming beyond that now. I think in the last 10 years or so, we have seen growth coming at a much faster pace from those centers. So I think we will see that evolving from those centers as well. But I think these cities will continue to grow faster, because let's not forget that when we look at overall car industry, not just luxury, our penetration is still like 25 per thousand, which is very, very low. And which tells us there is a huge potential ahead. And even, I think on one side, we are only 1.2% of the total car industry. So I think both will happen. One, the car penetration will go up. It's already going up, but it will go much faster, because right now our per capita income is $2,500. Probably it will go, I think what we understand is the inflection point is when it goes close to $4,500. Then the luxury will really, really take off. But till that time, if let's say the overall market grows from where it is today, 4 million to let's say 7-8 million in some years from now, and it remains this 1.2% becomes 1.5%, I think there is a growth coming. But this growth is going to become much more wider, not just concentrated on these 14-15 districts. It will go much, much wider. And I think that is where tier 1, tier 2 cities, beyond metro towns and beyond state capitals will participate in this growth. So I think it's widening for sure.
Right. Santosh, to you, how much of the global trends are really impacting the Indian consumer? Does the Indian consumer, prefer international brands over homegrown brands? Is there some balancing act there? Also, are they more interested and inclined towards, let's say, bespoke and personalized offerings?
Firstly, when it comes to luxury, there has to be a DNA as well. And the DNA comes from heritage, history, legacy, innovations.
And money.
Of course, all that costs money as well. So in that sense, European brands has many of them for historic and various reasons. And it's not only cars, but also you go right from perfumes to bags to any of these categories. So there, I think there is an affinity, a strong affinity, I would say, when it comes to European brands. But your first question on the differentiation of the Indian consumer and the expectation, as I said, they are much more aware. So any product that we launch in the world, earlier our time to market would be 18 months, to come to India. Today, nobody is ready to wait. We had the new E-Class launch worldwide 9 months back, and we had to get the car in 9 months to India. And that's the expectation that nobody is wanting to continue the old life cycle. So one, the product life cycles are getting shorter because everybody wants something new always. Second, the time to market when we launch something across the world to India, this needs to be as fast. We can explain India is a right-hand drive market. We need time, certification, challenges, but customer is not ready to wait, and then they shift. So I think that puts a lot of pressure on us to get the cars as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Let's come to some of the key challenges. For instance, while the growth for your space looks really rosy, how is inflation, global economic uncertainties affecting consumer spending, in various segments, and how do you see that impact your particular segments, and of course the macro luxury space, the affluent space overall? For instance, what's the outlook for next year?
Okay, so I think let us look at it in this way. I think right now, Indian economy is not untouched. What is happening globally, I think we get impacted. Our customers are participating in various forums of wealth investments and all. So I think the reflection is somehow you can see in the stock markets. When there is a vulnerability, I think there is more wait and watch. So customers become a little more, I would say, because this is a spend which is luxury really means that people are not a typical investment, but they really want when they feel good about it. So I think that is not right now, if you really see, while there is a lot of euphoria for the long term, let's say 7-10 years from now, India is going to be places, we are going to be the so many trillion economy, and we are going to be the top economy in the globe, that there is a sure-footedness there. But when it comes to short run or medium run, I think next 1 or 2 years, I think there is still, I would say, people are more cautious. And hence, I believe that while we have seen post-pandemic a really good growth, but I think that growth probably is going to get more muted. It will grow. We'll continue to grow. There is no doubt about it. But I think that growth is going to be a little more muted. And we will see if you ask me from 5 to 7 or 10 years from now, it's going to be, I think it's a really good growth story. But if you talk to me about, I think short term, I think I would say it's still muted.
Flat next year then?
Flattish.
Flattish?
Flattish growth.
Flattish growth. Santosh, flattish growth, or you're expecting better than your last performance, which is unbeatable?
I'm a believer that luxury is a sentiment-driven purchase, right? So a lot depends on sentiments. I think there is enough wealth in India if you go through all the reports and the kind of, portion of wealth or share of wallet that we as luxury car brands have is much lesser. So there is for sure potential, but the sentiments are driven by geopolitics, sentiments are driven by macroeconomics, and it doesn't take time. I was one of the, even post-COVID, I said, the demand will come back because it was about sentiments. And when the sentimental euphoria came in, there was no logic to it, actually. It's not like, as I said, luxury starts where necessity ends. They will postpone purchases if the sentiments are down, but if the sentiments are back, stock markets as some reflection, you will just have a much bigger growth. So we need to, of course, calibrate ourselves, and I'm hopeful sentiments should be positive in the coming future.
Okay, last question before I wrap up. How are you as leaders of global brands in India? How do you see the premium journey of India, which is currently, in an escalation phase, kind of shape, in the years that come?
No, as I said, if you go by all statistics, demographics, also women buyers, I think for us as Mercedes-Benz, the star is a dream of a billion people. It's a story of dreams of a lot. On the other side, what's different is the transformation. I think that's also, we have to think of the electrification journey, a lot of changes in car, the differentiation coming down, and there as a luxury brand, we need to reinvent. We need to also ensure that we are able to give something which is path-breaking. We invented the car. It's time that we are reinventing it again. So I think this is a very 8 to 10 years in the automotive industry will be something what we have never seen in the last 20, 25 years. Not only in India, but in the world. Challenging times. On the same side, it's exciting to be in India as a market for Mercedes-Benz. We have a word internally called strategic patience. 30 years we were strategically patient. We are still investing. And we continue to invest. But we believe in the long-term story, and I think it's only a positive upside from here.
Fair enough.
So I think from my own team perspective, and I think the way we look at from India perspective, there is definitely India is a strong growth potential, and that is something that is becoming stronger and stronger as we move forward. And obviously, right now, auto industry is at a cusp of a disruption, which is, I think, all about change of the powertrain to electrification. And our focus has been very strongly on that. What we say is that a car with a cord, that is going to be the future. And that is even more critical for India. And I would say, if you see, for 3 reasons. One, I think when it comes to IC engines, we are depending on oil imports. I think EVs can help us cut that. It can help us also in terms of, I think, bringing down the pollution, at least in the cities. I think while the debate goes on, but I think EVs running in cities can really cut it down, which is also a priority for India. And third, I think we are now the 3rd biggest car market in the world, right? And we are going to go up the places. And now is our opportunity. I think we missed the bus probably during the ICE time, but I think now in BEVs we can make India as a strong manufacturing hub. And I think we need to be prepared for that. And I agree, I think we in India, we need a lot of strategic patience. You need to, I think because India is also highly in terms of VUCA, things can change overnight. But I think we can also be ready for those changes, those ambiguities, those challenges that will keep coming at us. But how do we move forward despite those challenges? Right, and that becomes very critical that we confront those challenges with confidence, knowing, as I said earlier, I think in 5, 7, 10 years from now, India is going to be a much bigger story. Today, when it comes to luxury brands, I think we are very small, but I think things will change in a short-term, medium-term time. And I think we better be prepared for that. And I think for that, we really need to go back and see how we are preparing for it. The world is becoming more digitally connected and cars are changing. So we need to be ready and lead from the front.
Well, on that note, thank you so much, Santosh and Jyoti. That's been pretty candid in your thoughts. And here's to more strategic patience and a bullish run for both of you. And it's lovely to see that 2 competitors sitting together and having a friendly chat. It's a rare sight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. And Sonali, we request you to stay with us for just a few more moments as we would like to present a token of our appreciation to you, graciously offered by luxury partner Damilano. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.